His body swayed back and forth, and his mouth hung slightly ajar. Drool seeped down his chin. His current state was a textbook example of sleepwalking.
What? Oh, wait, what?
I didn't care who or what it was. Just someone. Something. Please, grant me salvation. Jesus? Oh.
You big jerk! Get Clementine's skin in your eyes and go blind forever!
How's it going, everybody? HoodlaMutt here, back with some more Chaos Head Noah. And last time, well, we got to meet someone called, I believe it was Sakihara, Sakihara Rimi, who was the pink-haired girl that I've been waiting to see for all the way up until this point in the game. Who just kind of walked right into our container, and we thought, oh no, it's the demon coming to kill us. But she didn't kill us, and instead acted as though we were best friends that did stuff together after school and all that other type of stuff, that we were just like friends. And she even called up Miss Mikun, who said the same thing. Yeah, we go to the movies together all the time. We go and do all kinds of stuff together, and it freaked both us and Takumi out a lot. Takumi was so afraid of her and the situation and not knowing what was real and what wasn't, that he closed his eyes and waited for Dimi to leave, and then she did, and now we're here. And that's basically all that happened last episode. I mean, in a nutshell anyway. So, without further ado, let's just get back into it, shall we? In the midst of a pitch-black room, the pale light of a PC monitor cut through the darkness. Pictured on the screen was a SATA screensaver from Bloodtoon, the animation. While there had been a girl by the name of Sakihara Rimi present in the container half a day prior, the only figure that remained was the container's own, Nishijo Takumi. It was already 5 a.m. In Takumi's daily life, he would play online games until dawn and then collapse onto the sofa once he could not keep his eyes open any longer. Even now, Takumi was asleep on the couch, twisted in a seemingly uncomfortable position. He never used his bed for sleep. He did indeed have a proper bed, but it was already occupied by manga, CDs, and other random piled-up media. He could never be bothered to tidy it up, so his bed had effectively been repurposed into his storeroom. Ever since then, he had utilized his 2-person sofa as his one and only place to sleep. A pained moan escaped from Takumi's lips. Perhaps he was having a nightmare. His entire body was perspiring, and his closed eyelids twitched and trembled. His expression was warped in agony, and he was tossing and turning so frequently he came very close to falling off the couch. Right before he did, however, his eyes suddenly and inexplicably shot open as he faced the ceiling. They were bloodshot, and his eyeballs were faintly convulsing. What the frick is happening? Still in that state, without blinking even a single time, he rose from the sofa. He slowly staggered toward the PC. Without sitting down, he moved the mouse as he stood before the desk. The screensaver disappeared, and his desktop showed itself. The pale light of the monitor shone on Takumi's face, illuminating his horrifyingly vacant expression. His body swayed back and forth, and his mouth hung slightly ajar. Drool seeped down his chin. His current state was a textbook example of sleepwalking.
What? Oh, wait, what? Wait, is he dreaming? Or is this actually happening? What the frick?
Wait, whoa, wait a minute. I thought we were just joking about all that. Okay, wait a minute. No way. Okay, wait, let's see where this goes, because I can't really make any assumptions yet, I guess. The delirious boy launched the web browser, then opened @channel. His movement itself was languid and slow, but he showed no hesitation in selecting a thread from the board related to New Gen. Huh? The board listed a total of around 60 threads, and Takumi slowly opened each one of them, one by one. And then, with his eyes remaining glued to the monitor, he began to type. What? What the frick? He repeated this action for each and every thread. His posts were not particularly long, only housing a few characters each, but they all composed of the exact same sentence.
Whose eyes are those eyes? Oh, no way! Oh no, it is him! He is Shogun, what the frick?
I went to the hospital first thing next morning. What do you mean?
Yo, wait! Did that actually happen?
Okay, wait a second here. Then that means Yua was completely correct. And that means that, for some reason, we're either being controlled or we're actually sleepwalking and coming up with all this weird bullcrap by ourselves. Okay, alright, but is it a delusion or not? You know what I mean? Like, this whole game plays with delusions. I'm trying to figure out, they're gonna bamboozle me one of these times and be like, everything you thought was a lie, and it's gonna be like, everything is a delusion, you know, or something. I don't know. This is kind of wacky. They hadn't confirmed it the last time I'd come here, but today, they would definitely tell me I was normal. Oh no, he doesn't know. Dr. Takashina would remember me. I'd tell him, it's me, Nishijo. I was your patient until around 4 years ago, and then he'd tell me everything I needed to hear. I wasn't the crazy one. It was the demon girl, and Miss Mikun. They were the crazy ones. That was definitely what he was going to say. This hospital opened at 8 in the morning, which was a little bit earlier than regular hospitals. That was the reason why I'd shown up right when it opened. And yet, the seats in the lobby were already filled with countless middle-aged people or older. What the heck? Why? The hospital just opened. So why were there so many people here? Don't you jerks know head starts are unfair? Come on time like you're supposed to, morons! As I continued to insult them inside my head, I had no choice but to wait. About an hour passed before I really started to regret not having made an appointment. But right after I started thinking that, they called my name, and I was immediately relieved to know that I wouldn't have to wait as long as last week. Wait, but I thought he had an appointment. Didn't they say to come back in after like a week or something to know, or whatever? Do we even know if he took the meds? Did they just do like a big time leap? We don't know what happened in between, other than that he apparently maybe sleepwalks actually, for real? Okay. Except, the one waiting for me in the examination room wasn't Dr. Takashina, but some white-haired old man that I'd never seen before. Where's Dr. Takashina? Noticing my confusion, the nurse standing right behind him, I think her name was Hazuki-san, gave an apologetic look. Yeah, there's something about Hazuki-san, bro. There's something about Hazuki-san. I'm afraid Dr. Takashina is no longer here. What? Oh, really? Wait, what? He What? Rather, to be specific, he collapsed from fatigue last weekend. He's taking the week off to rest. Oh shoot, what the heck? Okay. What? This couldn't be happening. My one and only ally. Wait, had he really collapsed from fatigue? It's a conspiracy. Orchestrated by the demon girl.
Nishijo-san?
What?
She had to have poisoned him, or sent a death threat to scare him into submission, or done some other horrible act to psychologically break him. This had to be the work of the demon girl. She was trying to isolate me from my allies so I'd be defenseless against her assault. There was no way I was going to let anyone other than Dr. Takashina examine me, so instead of getting a checkup, I ran away from the hospital.
Yo, what? Uh-oh, what is happening? Oh my goodness?
Oh my goodness? What is going on? Darn it. Leaning on the fence at the edge of the roof, I blankly stared up at the sky. The skies of Shibuya were dim and lifeless. You'd have to be crazy to call them clear. I shouldn't go to the hospital anymore. The demon girl's net was tightening around me. Maybe I already had nowhere to run. Maybe the detectives I'd met yesterday were imposters. Maybe, in reality, they had been the demon girl's underlings all along, and they'd just been testing me. That had to be it. The timing had been just way too perfect. The demon girl had broken into my room right after I'd talked to them, for Pete's sake. She was a demon, after all. She wasn't human. Controlling and manipulating the human mind would be child's play for her. I had no evidence of that, though. But at the same time, I had no evidence proving she wasn't a demon. Which meant the only way to stay alive was to just assume the worst-case scenario. Did I really have nobody on my side? You were, technically, but you don't know that. It felt like everyone was against me. No matter where I looked, no matter who it was, all I saw was yet another one of the demon girl's underlings. Save me. Somebody save me. Why didn't I have even a single ally? Why wouldn't anyone come and save me? Why did only I have to suffer so much? I felt more helpless than ever. I just wanted something to support me. Someone who would protect me. Something that would protect me. I didn't care who or what it was. Just someone. Something. Please, grant me salvation. Jesus? Oh. Your sword. Find it. Quickly. If you do, you shall be granted salvation. All right, she did say that, yeah. Suddenly, I remembered those words. A sword. If this was a game, I'd be the protagonist, and there'd be a cliché story moment where I'd obtain the legendary sword and triumph over evil. At this point, I'd heard the word sword from 2 different 3D girls recently, and in extremely close proximity at that. There still remained the possibility that Fess was on my side. Girl B, however, I think her name was Senna, had a pretty high chance of being one of the demon girl's underlings, judging by her attitude. A sword. A sword. If I can get a sword, then I'll be... I started talking to myself like I'd lost my mind. I was grasping at straws at this point. If I just get my hands on a sword, I might be freed from this nightmare. I couldn't help but hope for that. It wasn't that I believed what Fest said about it granting me salvation. I just had nothing else to cling to. At the very least, I should do some research. Okay. Bro, I don't know what's going on right now. I'm along for the ride. I promptly tried searching for it online. I started off by checking to see if the swords Fess and Senna were carrying appeared in any anime, but I couldn't find any. At least from the seasonals. I'd expected as much. I always checked out the newest anime after all. Considering there were upwards of 30 to 40 of them in one season, it'd really pile up on me if I tried to watch them all. So I just watched the first couple episodes and figured out which ones to keep following from there. Yeah, that's the way to do it, really, honestly. Yeah. My rule of thumb is you gotta watch at least 3. At least 3. And then if it doesn't catch you by 3, then you can keep moving on. The only exception I've ever made to that is Gurren Lagann. Okay, Gurren Lagann, okay, is you got to make it to episode 8, in my opinion. 3, in my opinion, you should be hooked by the first one. But if you're not, try 3. And if you're still, for some reason, not, get to 8. And if you're still not by then, it's just not your type of show. That's all I can say. Because that's the one that you need to get to. That's all I'm going to say. We're going to leave it at that. If you haven't watched if you haven't watched Gurren Lagann, then you need to. You really need to. That's a great one. That's my favorite, in fact. Naturally, since MewTube existed, I had no trouble completing my lineup from channels such as BS and CS. So there was no way I'd overlooked any anime. And those swords weren't in any of the shows I'd checked out. The swords both had extremely distinctive shapes, so if they'd showed up, I definitely would have remembered them. Although, if someone other than myself had been controlling me when I saw it, then there was nothing I could do about it. Next, I tried searching for the swords themselves, rather than anime they might have appeared in. Okay. Darn it. They're almost all video game walkthrough sites. Terms I knew well, such as ESO's Shangri-La Edge, kept popping up. I was making no progress. For Pete's sake, I was supposed to be able to find it quickly! I had a feeling that Senna had used a more concrete name for it. But what had it been? Remember! The nightmare won't end unless you remember. Answer me. You see it, don't you? The die sword. Oh, right, I forgot. It was called a die sword. Or is it D sword? Might be D sword. I'm gonna go with die sword until I know something different. Die sword. That was it! She'd called it a die sword. I quickly typed it in and ran a search. I got hits! Only 2 of them, though. Even so, I was already starting to think of those 2 links as my road to salvation. Holding back my excitement, I clicked on the top one first. I see it says amnesia and stuff too, what the heck? Okay. Oh, cool. Crap. The page was down. Darn it, what the heck? Okay, calm down. Go back and look at the cache. Okay. Oh, alright. The page had an illustration on it. Must have been a recreation based on how the sword was described in various books. Okay. It's from a legend? Oh, that's a lot to read. I thought he was gonna read it. Okay. You might have to pause to see what that said, because I thought he was gonna, like, explain it so I didn't have to. But compared to the one that the Senna girl had, it's really plain. Why did it have to be such a niche sword to begin with? I mean, why couldn't it have been a sword like Excalibur or Kusanagi? You know, swords that were actually a big deal. No, this wasn't the time to cry and moan. Niche or mainstream, I didn't care as long as it could save me. I decided to research it a bit more. Okay. Continuing, I checked the second link. The words, "I bought a die sword," caught my eye specifically. Were die swords something you could buy? The blog owner seemed to be male, so I could deduce that it couldn't be the demon girl or Senna. Well, unless they're lying, right? I mean, with that type of mentality. And the energy shown in the writing was way too different from Shogun's. He was a completely unrelated third party? Or could he have deliberately changed his writing style? WTF. Wait, so, okay, I bought a sword today. It's called a die sword, I think. Seriously, I can't get enough of all the shady stuff I've been picking up. Town Vanguard is an oasis for my soul, man. The only places in the entire Tokyo metropolitan area that I've got, or that have got that shady vibe. TV has, wait, TV, Vibe TV, Shady Vibe TV has, what? The ones that got that Shady Vibe TV has are in Akiba. I was like, what the heck is that sentence? Even then, though, Akiba's stores don't really scratch that itch for me, you know? All they've really got is computers or porn or stuff like that. They say the same for TV, though. It says these used to be all sorts of, there used to be all sorts of shady shops in Shibuya. Really something my age. I can't quite read that. But they've been washed away along with the flow of time. Man, those were the days. Lol. What's amazing to me, though, is that if you didn't know any better, TV totally looks like a store for noobs. Lamau. Okay. Oh, really shows my age. Got you. Okay. I knew that no answer would come to me no matter how much I thought about it, so I gave up and stopped looking at the blog. More importantly, it seemed like the store he'd mentioned, Town Vanguard, was located in Shibuya. I had the feeling that it was too good to be true, but I also had the feeling that it was predestined, too. Looking at it from another angle, maybe the exact reason I'd run into a girl holding a die sword in the middle of Shibuya twice was because the sword was located there. Wait, wasn't underground stuff like this supposed to secretly be popular among a few minority groups in Shibuya? Pretty sure it was. Anyway, I went ahead and ran a search for Town Vanguard. It didn't seem to have an official site, but I did find a preview image of it on an online map. If they didn't have an official site, that probably meant they didn't take online orders. I tried searching for them as a seller on Taboo auctions, but I didn't find anything. Which meant that I would have to go to the store in person. I really didn't want to go outside. But I have to get a sword. I have no other choice. I had now come to think of the sword as my sole, only means of opposing the demon girl. I didn't have any idea what I would actually do after I got it, though. I certainly wasn't brave enough to kill her with it. Not even close. Even so, I had hoped that if I got my hands on a sword, I would be released somewhat from the terror that was tormenting me. The die sword would be my protective charm, something I could depend on. There was something strangely alluring about that sword. Okay. So we're just being more of a weeb. We're going to a store to buy a sword. Let's go. It seemed like the store was located somewhere near Cat Street. Cat Street was a long, winding road next to Meijidori that ran from Shibuya to Harajuku. Apparently, it had been built on top of an old stream that had been reclaimed a while back. There were a bunch of reasons as to why people started calling it Cat Street, such as it being frequented by feral cats, or that it was so narrow that only cats could use it. But it wasn't like it made a difference to me either way. Cat Street was pretty far away from my base. It took about 15 to 20 minutes to get there on foot. It'd be much faster by bike, but unfortunately I didn't have one. I decided to take a route that went past the front of the train station, then through Shodo via cutting through Miyashita Park. Quickening my pace a bit, I crossed the overpass that went over Meijidori. Phew. I'd finally arrived. I was starting to get really impatient. The sheer distance was ticking me off. It's nice to see Cat Street this way. You know, I've only ever seen all of Shibuya from the like Twiwi perspective, you know. The world ends with you. That's the only way I've ever actually seen any of Shibuya. So it's kind of cool seeing all the areas of Shibuya in this game where they're a lot more detailed, and you know, you kind of get probably a better indication of what it probably looked like back actually at the same time that The World Ends With You would have come out. So this would be like at the same time, because I think both games came out the same year. So it's kind of interesting. It's very pretty though. Cat Street was nice and quiet compared to Center Gai, and it felt much more like Harajuku than Shibuya. The stores lining the streets here were only aimed at trend chasers I wanted nothing to do with. Screw them, to be honest. Knowing how out of place I was just made me all the more ticked off. It was complete foreign territory. Every last one of the jerks around me thought they were so darn cool. There were even more couples sauntering around than in the shopping district. Whatever. They were probably just a bunch of broke morons trying to pretend they had money. So they were likely just window shopping. Wow. Wastes of space. Oh my gosh, dude, he's still... I hope we get to see him kind of like have a shift, you know? Because he's just so mean. I was starting to regret coming here at all, but I reminded myself that all the suffering would be worth it once I got a sword. So I just sucked it up and kept walking. In order to avoid making eye contact with anyone, I kept my eyes firmly trained on my map as I speed walked toward my destination. Town Vanguard was deep into a narrow side road that split off from Cat Street. Is this it? Even though I'd only gone one side street away from the main road, the atmosphere had changed dramatically. It was a narrow, cramped, filthy alley that no car could travel through. The street was lined with wooden houses, out-of-business stores with closed shutters, and the inevitable spray-painted graffiti that covered said shutters. Despite how nice it looked from the outside with all its high-class name-brand stores, Cat Street 2 was nothing more than a superficial facade. And behind that facade lay a whole host of broken-down, mercilessly discarded junk heaps. Then again, I couldn't stand the place either way. Both the bullcrap and the truth were foreign territory to me. The only home for me was ESO. Even for the back streets, though, Town Vanguard had an even smaller, darker atmosphere than I was expecting. I was finally starting to get why the blogger had called it shady. Even though an open sign was hanging on the door, it didn't exactly look like the business was booming. And that was being generous. Thanks to that, it was extremely hard to convince myself to go in. How was I, a guy who couldn't even go into a gyudon shop by himself, supposed to enter a sketchy store like this? I wanted to go home. No. I needed to get my hands on a sword, no matter what. What should I do? I spent a little while trying and failing to get myself to go in. Not a single person came through the cramped alley. I had already spent 30 minutes waffling over what to do, but I still hadn't seen a single soul since I'd gone off the road. All that happened was I would finally decide to suck it up and go in, but then I would realize I wasn't brave enough, repeat ad nauseum. But I couldn't go home empty-handed. This was the only place I could get my hands on a dye sword. Even though my sense of reason told me that, my instincts made me hesitate to enter the shop. In my mind, I had a delusion where the clerk came out to me. Of course, she was a cute maid, and she talked to me with a voice straight out of an anime. She knew exactly what I wanted, and she held the dye sword out to me, friendly as could be. "Here you are. Please take this sword, master." Okay, that's enough. Chill out, me.
Oh my gosh.
Just as I was thinking about how much nicer it'd be if things turned out that way, a lone 3D girl appeared from within the store, almost like she'd somehow heard my thoughts. However, unlike my delusion, she was wearing disgustingly gaudy clothes, the type that made you think, what Indian tribe did she steal those from? But at the same time, despite the getup, she looked absolutely miserable. Talk about whiplash. Her hair was incredibly frizzy, to the point where it looked like her head had exploded, and creepy patterns were scrawled on the bandana she had twisted around it.
Wait, is she like a medium?
She said that she was a store worker and had come out after seeing me pacing outside. My delusion hadn't exactly become reality, but it wasn't like I had expected it to. Before I knew what was happening, the clerk forcibly showed me inside, despite how reluctant I was to do so. I didn't even have the chance to turn her down.
Okay. Ooh.
In the end, I found myself inside the store. It was all well and good that I'd cleared the most difficult obstacle, but if this store was under the demon girl's control, and everything about the dye sword was just an elaborate trap to lure me to it, I wouldn't be allowed to complain if I got killed right here. My eyes darted around the store's dim interior. There wasn't a single customer. The air was awfully stagnant and slightly hazy. The unpleasant odor of tobacco and mold mixed together and invaded my nostrils. I felt like I was going to be sick if I stayed here for more than 5 minutes. Though I saw things that looked like products, it was difficult to judge whether or not they were actually for sale. All of them had been placed haphazardly, and there was no way to distinguish them from just plain old garbage. And it didn't help that not a single one of them had a price tag. I didn't notice it until after I'd come in, but there were a whole lot of porn and sex toys. Among those were devices you'd see in rape, humiliation-type eroge, and I had no idea where to find a safe place to look.
What the frick? Oh, I didn't expect that. What the frick is this place? I thought this was gonna be like one of those, you know, like the typical like ancient Chinese shop type of a mentality, you know, where where the kid from Gremlins got Gizmo, you know. That's what I was expecting. It's okay. That's weird.
This store must have been a variety shop for adults or something. After forcing me into the store, The clerk sat down on a stool behind the counter, then proceeded to zone out as she smoked. She showed no indication that she was going to continue meddling with me. She was probably a partial source of the haze in here. Even though it'd been less than a minute since I'd come in, anxiety, a weird sense of pressure, and the embarrassment all combined with how sick I was feeling in the form of a disgusting sweat seeping out of my forehead. I wanted to get out of this otherworldly place as soon as possible. I had to hurry up and find a die sword quick. I walked toward the back as I looked throughout the store. I soon found the fantasy weapons section, which had been mentioned in the blog I'd found. This corner of the store was the only one that stood out to me. Numerous pole-shaped toys were neatly displayed. All of the toys were tubes of some sort. They were different colors, but pretty much all of them were lightsabers. You could tell pretty easily from how shoddy they were that they were all bootleg. I doubted they would even glow. It seemed like the light shuriken talked about in the blog was sold out, which surprised me. Yet, mixed in with the lightsabers was a single item that was clearly different from the rest.
Oh yeah? Oh!
It only took one look for me to know it was a die sword. It looked almost exactly like the illustration I'd seen online. I went to pick it up. It was unexpectedly light. I wondered what it was made of, but it definitely seemed like some sort of soft vinyl. It wasn't sharp at all. The edges were slippery, and naturally it didn't hurt me in the slightest when I ran my fingers across it. Compared to the ones Senna and Fess had, it was badly designed. It had no sense of weight, and above all else, it didn't give me the sense that it would sever anything with just the slightest touch. Could it be a fake? That worried me, but there wasn't anything else in the store that resembled a die sword. Would this even give off a light at all? The die sword Fess had swung around at her show had pieces of glass embedded in it that gave off a blue light and looked extremely cool. But I didn't see a single shard of glass in the sword I was holding. Maybe I shouldn't buy it. The die sword was so shoddily made that I couldn't help but come to that conclusion, despite how long it had taken me to get here. But your sword. Find it. Quickly. If you do, you shall be granted salvation. I remembered Fess's words. Right. If I didn't buy it right here and now, I'd lose my only chance of getting my hands on a die sword. Maybe it only looked cheap, but once it recognized me as its true master, an incredible power would manifest within it. Or maybe I'd seen too much anime. Or read one too many manga. But I had sensed that exact kind of unknown power in Senna and Fess's swords. So this sword should have it too. But, what to do? She's gonna come over and help him. While my internal debate raged on, the clerk came up and stood right behind me without me noticing. Yeah, I figured. With a melancholic smirk, she pointed at the die sword and muttered, 10,000 yen, and I'll throw in a free bonus. How absurdly cheap it was made me doubt my own ears at first. I had amassed quite a bit of cash from RMT, and if it was only 10,000 yen, I could buy it simply by sacrificing a single figure. When I'd heard the price, and when I'd realized that it was the last one they had left, I'd come to an immediate decision. The bonus that'd come with it was a cheap-looking bangle. To be frank, I didn't want it in the slightest. Alright, so he bought it. 10,000 yen's, like what, $100, I think? Everything after that was hell. Town Vanguard didn't do deliveries, so my only option was to lug it home myself. Toy or not, my excitement died instantly when I realized I'd have to carry the stupidly long sword right through the heart of Shibuya. But I'd already paid for it, and the clerk adamantly refused to let me return it. Interesting. I bet she might be part of it or something, whatever's going on. Like she was waiting or something, and she's like, he's the one that this sword has been waiting for, or whatever, you know? I wonder. This was a really intense form of humiliation roleplay. Having to haul a huge toy like this down a fancy street. Just as I'd come to expect, the DQN couples, dolled-up grills, and whatever other manner of sheep that passed me by all had those same exact mocking smiles. Darn it. Every last one of you should kill yourself. I focused intently on keeping my head down for the rest of the way home, having delusions all the way about swinging my newly bought dye sword at the innocent people in the middle of the road, viciously slaughtering piles and piles of them. Okay, we got a sword. I'd finally made it back. I'd started running when I was about halfway home, and I didn't stop until I got there. So I was gasping for air by the time I'd reached my base. The ice-cold stares of the pedestrians were killing me. It was somewhat impressive that Senna was able to endure this kind of embarrassment all the time. In a way, I even respected her for it. I could never do what she did.
Well, it's because it's probably not real, right? Like, it's just only you and her and anyone else who has this, like, precognition type power can probably see it, you know? It's like your Keyblade, right? It's like it comes out of your soul. It's your soul blade, dude. It's like this, like Bleach, dude. This is gonna be like where you have to like summon your Zanpakuto, you know, and you just like rip it out of your chest or whatever. I forget how they do it in that show. I forget how that works. I thought it like comes out of their chest. Maybe that's a different anime I'm thinking of. It's been a while since I've watched Bleach.
Suddenly, a sound came from a blind spot in the shadow of my base. Uh-oh. Was someone there? Freezing in my tracks, I gulped. The pure white smile of the demon girl who called herself Demi appeared in my mind. Maybe she'd come back. Maybe this time she'd come to kill me for real. What should I do? Should I run? I sensed a presence. The light of the sunset etched someone's shadow onto the ground. One that I knew, without a shadow of a doubt, had to be female. I immediately readied my dye sword. When I actually tried holding it like that, though, it felt even less reliable than I'd expected it to. Senna's sword had felt incredibly intimidating, and it had this sense of overwhelming pressure that wouldn't allow anyone to get near it. But the dye sword I was holding didn't feel like that at all. Maybe it really was a fake. Could I really fight with something like this? There was no way. Even if I had a real one, I still couldn't do it. Not only that, but I hadn't realized how heavy it really was until I first started holding it just now. Maybe I was holding it wrong. In any case, it would be impossible to even swing it like this. The shadow suddenly wavered. It was approaching me. Stay back! I shut my eyes tight and haphazardly swung the sword in front of me. I knew I wouldn't be able to defeat my enemy this way. Even so, I had the... Even so, I had the faint hope that, as long as I had this sword, Even so, I had the faint hope that, as long as I had this sword, it'd somehow do something anyway. But I didn't feel it hit anything, nor did my enemy make a sound. I couldn't believe it. Could that single strike of mine have utterly annihilated the demon girl? If so, That'd be the best crap to ever happen to...
What's up with the sword, big bro?
Yeah, I had a feeling it was gonna be his sister. I just had a feeling.
What? When I opened my eyes, the one standing there wasn't the demon girl, but rather Nanami. She was looking at me with unmistakably judgmental eyes. All my strength disappeared instantly, and I dropped to the ground right where I'd been standing. You... Don't scare me like that. She was the worst little sister ever. Didn't she know how crappy it was to scare her own older brother like this, let alone enjoy it? Who the heck did she think she was? This was exactly why 3D would always pale in comparison to 2D.
I wasn't trying to scare you. I just came over for your routine survival check like I usually do, but you weren't here. Why did you make me wait here for 30 minutes? Do you realize how worried I was about you? You've made my precious free time disappear into thin air, you know. Jerk.
Worried? This witch was worried about me? As if I would ever fall for such an obvious lie.
Oh my gosh, he's delusional in more ways than one, dude.
So, where'd you run off to? You don't go outside all that often. And you didn't pick up when I called you either.
I'd left my phone behind at my base. It wasn't like anyone was gonna call me while I was out, so I'd seen no point in bringing it.
And also, what's with the sword? Did you just come back from buying it?
Nanami peered curiously at the sword.
Oh, I've got it now. It's some anime toy, right? Man, you really are a total nerd. But if I'm honest, this toy doesn't fit you at all. Just a second ago, you had your shoulders all squared as you held it up. I'm gonna crack up just thinking about it.
Ignoring Nanami, I undid the lock to the door to the container house and made to go inside.
Wait! Don't ignore me!
Go home. If she'd just come to check if I was alive, then she'd got what she wanted. And she no longer had any reason to be here. She was always making fun of me. And every time she came over, she would do nothing but complain. If she was really that put off by being here, then she didn't have to come at all. It was annoying anyway. It'd be no skin off my back if she stopped.
Hey, I came all the way out here to check up on you, so could you at least be a little grateful? I even brought a present for you and everything.
Her voice was whiny as could be, and she pursed her lips. A present?
Yup. Mom told me to bring it. Here.
Nanami handed me a bag of clementines. There were about 10 of them, wrapped up in red netting. Weird. Something's fishy here. I'd eat clementines if they were right in front of me, but they weren't my favorite food or anything.
On that note, I could use a quick break. So how about I sit down and eat some with you?
Go home.
What the heck? I brought you a present and I'm offering to eat it with you. Aren't you happy? Because you should be.
What exactly about eating clementines with Nanami was supposed to make me feel happy at all? And besides, it was obvious that she just wanted to eat clementines. And that was the whole reason why she'd come here. She'd been a fatty ever since we were little, often stealing my portion to add to hers. I couldn't count the amount of times we'd fought over that. Nanami, unable to take a hint, waltzed right on into my base. I gave up and followed in after her.
You have any tea? I'd like something nice and warm.
Why the heck would I have tea? I only drink cola and nothing else. Nanami sat down on the sofa and grabbed a clementine. Sighing, I set down the dye sword so it'd lean against my computer desk. I had no reason to continue carrying the bangle in my pocket, so I just chucked it somewhere behind me.
Huh? What's that?
Quickly spotting the bangle I'd thrown on the floor, Nanami went to pick it up.
Ooh, that's a little special looking.
Oh, what a cute little bangle. Did you buy this too? Crazy to think you've actually got good taste sometimes.
Cute? How? The thing was nothing more than a piece of junk you'd get for 500 yen at worst. I couldn't believe how bad Nanami's taste was.
I think it's kind of, I like the little symbol. Symbol's kind of cool.
Ignoring her once again, I nabbed one of the clementines and sat down in front of my PC.
Hey, why are you throwing this away?
Because I don't want it.
Okay, then I'll take it off your hands.
What?
What's the problem? You were gonna get rid of it anyway. Come on, you could at least act like a brother every once in a while and give your sister a present. Consider this your first step.
You call it a present, but it's just something I don't want that you suddenly decided to appropriate. Fine, then just take it.
Really? Yay!
Literal walking PMS. As soon as she'd gotten my approval, she put the bangle on her wrist. Takes a real cheap girl to get this excited over such a cheap piece of junk.
Oh my gosh, dude, what the frig?
So, what do you think? Doesn't it look good on me?
Not even close.
Is that so? You jerk!
It was supposed to be a present, so why was she treating me like this? Little sisters weren't supposed to call their brothers mean names. What were they teaching girls nowadays? Go play 100 eroge this instant!
No, that's terrible advice. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't be like him. Quit trying to drag everyone down into your degeneracy. You started with Yua. Don't screw up your little sister on top of it.
Jerk!
She was grinning from ear to ear. I, meanwhile, was getting extremely ticked off.
I really like it, so I'm not gonna give it back anymore. Now that I think about it, I think this is the first time I've ever gotten a present from you. Well, I have now, so I'll take real good care of it.
As if I cared. No one asked you to take care of it. I didn't even get it for you in the first place. If that's all you wanted, then go home. I don't have time for this. So stop bothering me. The moment I said that, Nanami pursed her lips.
You don't have to say it all mean like that. Besides, we haven't even eaten the clementines yet. And you haven't gotten me any tea either.
I don't have any freaking tea for you to drink. Nanami glared at me intently, hands on her hips. Before long, her eyes started welling up, and then...
Fine! If I'm that much of a bother, then I'll just leave.
Oh, good. Make it quick.
You big jerk! Get Clementine's skin in your eyes and go blind forever!
I gotta say, she's pretty creative with her insults, I must say.
And I'm not gonna give back the bangle either, jerk!
Yelling in a migraine-inducing voice that resounded throughout the entire room, Nanami grabbed her bag and ran out with insane speed. Oh, thank God. It was finally over. Hanging out with Nanami always took everything out of me. Why did she insist on coming here every week when I'd made it very clear I was sick of it? Read the room for Pete's sake.